Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the P-heads themselves. I am your P-head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head's social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to the show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's P-head Posse episode, our guest is Cara Miranda. Cara is a psychic medium who helps others connect to their loved ones on the other side, heal from grief, awaken their spiritual side, and better understand their own gifts and abilities. Hi, Cara. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Alexa. Thanks for having me.
Such an honor to have you. We've actually had the pleasure of meeting in real life through one of the retreats that we had through the podcast that I host. But I know that you came through Positive Head originally, so I wanted to get you on the show because you have, such amazing gifts that you're developing. And, I know that you have a beautiful story to share. So would love to start just, with your story, with your background, with, what your life has been like up until this point.
Yeah, definitely. So I like to think it's a unique story. So I'm from Pennsylvania. I live in Baltimore now. I have a social work background, so I went to school for social work. I've always been really into helping people and finding ways to use my creative side in helping others. And then I'm actually adopted from Chile. So I really, as I've been on my spiritual journey, realized that I think I was adopted so that I could then have more of a platform to share my gifts, because I was in a really poor area of Santiago and I had middle-class United States family adopt me. My mom and dad are amazing. They've given me so many opportunities. I was able to go to Catholic school and go to college and earn a degree and really have just a wonderful life. And I think now I'm so grateful for that. And I realized that I chose that for a reason. And now I'm able to help others through my journey.
Yeah. And were you always intuitive, from childhood?
Yeah. So as a child, I had imaginary friends, and I had this one imaginary friend named Chuck. And Chuck was like a 45-year-old dude. And my mom was freaked out. Why would you think of that for your imaginary friend? And we would play checkers together, and Chuck would always beat me. And I would get mad. I'm like, Chuck is so good at checkers. And my mom would be like, Cara, you can just win. You're making this up. And I would get mad and say, no, he really beats me and he's better at checkers than I am. And then one day he decided to leave, and I made up a story. He moved to Florida or something. But yeah. I think that he was the first spirit that I connected to on the other side. Wow. And looking back, as I had I had an elderly neighbor pass away when I was about 7. I had a great aunt pass away when I was 8 or 9. I would have these vivid daydreams about them. And I just chalked it up to like my imagination. And I would talk to people about it. And of course, I'm going to Catholic school. So they're like, no, that's not real. But now looking back, I realize like, oh no, I think I was actually connecting to them.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that you had any like actual connection to, for example, that spirit Chuck? Like, was it someone, did it have any relevance to you? Or like, if it was, I'm just curious, like if it was a spirit, like how did you connect with that spirit? That makes sense.
I think maybe now like that Chuck is like one of my guides, and that because now like that same personality I feel is like one of my protector guides. And I just in meditation and in learning more about that, I think that was just the way that they showed themselves to me. And I feel very still connected to whatever that being was. So in my adult life, but now it's understanding it differently through a different lens.
Yeah, definitely. And so when was it that you fully like began to accept that this is what was happening?
So it was almost exactly a year ago, which is really crazy that now here we are and I'm actually getting to be part of this. About a year ago, I was actually in therapy for anxiety and some past trauma and sexual trauma and other things that I've been through. And in that, I started meditating. I started doing gratitude journals and mindfulness. And that's how I found the Positive HeAd podcast. I think I typed, like we all did, let's find something positive. And then up comes Brandon and his wonderful self. And from there, it really just like one thing after another kept happening. So I found the podcast. I started learning more about just the spiritual side of things. And from there, pretty much like maybe 2 weeks later, I listened to a random episode and it was like another medium talking about mediumship. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy? Like in my mind, I'm thinking like, I can't do this. And a few weeks later, I actually attended a group reading. I hosted one at my house for some of my coworkers. And afterwards, she came up to me and she was like, you have this ability. Like, I don't know if you know you have this, but you can do this. And even though I've always had some sort of intuition and these different things that would happen, I just never thought I could do it to that degree. And I had never tried. So I sort of didn't believe her. And then I kept listening to the podcast. And again, maybe a few weeks later, you guys, it was, I think, July, announced that you were starting Inner Bloom. And so I had to listen to that and heard Ambi's story and was like, okay, like, maybe this is a sign.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Ambi just for a reading. And my reading turned into a spiritual coaching session. And she was like, Cara, no, we're not doing a reading. You're going to read me. And I actually connected to her grandmother and her brother. And everything was just spot on about them. And I was like, as we're doing it, as I'm giving her a reading, I'm like, Ambi, I feel this. And oh my God, like I'm seeing this. And she's writing it all down. And she's like, you're right, keep going. And she's just like plain as could be like, yeah, you're good. Like you're natural at this. And I'm like over here having a coronary that this is real life.
Yeah. And so then what? So
Ambi and I, like little plug for Ambi, Ambrosia Matthews Intuitive. She and I did some more coaching sessions where we would practice boundary setting, protection, meditation, how to come up with like basically how to connect to the other side and how to decipher the things that you're seeing. So I see things in my mind's eye. So like clairvoyant, but also clairaudient, where your mind's voice will say different things and it's messages from the other side. So I did a lot of work with her on how to decipher what I'm seeing and feeling when I'm doing a reading. And we practiced reading celebrities and things like that. And I'd be doing readings for my friends and my husband and my family and anyone who would let me, just to sort of practice. And I kept telling Ambi, I need more practice. And she's like, no, this is something that you just have. Like, it's wonderful to do, but it's not like something where if you practice, you're going to get better. It's like you can work on boundary setting and work on protection and work on, relaxing and not burning yourself out. But the skill and the ability is the gift. Like, you just
you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So then what happened in your life after that, as far as like, you working with this?
So now I'm at the point where I'm going to be making my own website. I'm working with Leah Liebler, and she actually came up with a really cool logo for me. And I'm going to be having my website up and running in the next month or so, where I'm going to be doing readings for people either in person or over Skype. And then I'm also working on doing tarot readings. I've just always loved tarot decks, and I have 2 of them now, and I'm looking to get 3 or 4 more. So that's something fun that I'll do on Instagram now, like Tarot Tuesdays, and just pull cards for people. And then also anyone who is just starting out, like I was, where you're interested in spirituality, but you don't know a lot about it. Just the social work side in me wants to help people in that way. So taking people under my wing, giving them books to read, giving them coaching sessions, teaching them about boundary setting and about meditation and mindfulness, and just this whole world that I found a few years ago I knew really nothing about before, but it's been such a gift and such a mind-blowing awakening that I just want to help other people. So those are the 3 main things that I'm offering.
I love it. And you know why? Because when you were describing that, I was getting this visual of how it's so cool. It's like one person wakes up and then they're like, go and tap someone else on the shoulder. They're like, hey, wake up. You're sleeping. And the other person's like, I am? Oh yeah. And they're like, yeah, remember? And then they tell, I'm thinking of Ambi doing this to you, yeah, remember? You can do this and you can do this and you can do this. And you're like, oh yeah, I can. And then now you're walking around awake and you're going and tapping people on the shoulder, hey, wake up. And it's so cool because I just get this visual of everyone just keeps pulling each other up. And, and then, once you're awake, then you can operate in the world and, and help people go through and remember, first of all, what they already know at a soul level, but also and navigate this new world that we're living in, which is changing so drastically. And, how do you think, just curious, how do you think, why do you think learning this type of stuff and tapping into these abilities right now is so important in this time that we're in now?
Well, I think that there's just so much going on a global scale where it's so much change that is occurring, and right now, not all of it is for the better. And it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of collective growth that's happening. Everyone's kind of doing their own version of the dark side of the soul. And in coming out of that, a lot of people are tapping into their abilities, and just even the way that with the Schumann resonance, how it's all over the map and the whole frequency of the planet is changing, and more people are going to start tapping into their abilities. So if I can be one of those earlier ones in this new trend to pioneer this and make this more of a norm and more accepted, and kind of bridge that gap between religion and spirituality and Catholicism and spirituality, and where mediumship and where all of these beliefs can kind of come together. That is what I feel like I'm meant to do, and to help people accept it and really tap into their own gifts without feeling scared, without feeling like they're guilty for, you know, knowing or having these abilities that are against their upbringing and all of that. That's what I'm set out to accomplish.
Yeah. How did you move through that? Because you said like you went to a Catholic school and that everyone was saying like, no, you're just imagining it. Or I don't know if they were saying even more than that, but how have you dealt with that?
Yeah. I'm for a long time, like a long time, like my teens and through my 20s, I had immense Catholic guilt, like debilitating. And even when I was younger, the first time they had us go for confession, I had nothing to confess because I was a second grader. Like, what major sins do I have? None. And I lied in confession and I said that we like didn't go to church every Sunday, which we did. And then I felt so bad that I got back in line again. And I told the priest, I lied to a priest. That's my real sin. Because I just lied to you. Like, so the Catholic guilt thing is just so ridiculous. And it really took until finding Brandon and learning and reading some of the books that he's recommended, reading like Journey of Souls and just understanding this whole other mindset and the science that's behind it and the physics, and understanding that like there is not this like omnipresent God that is like this totalitarian that wants to punish you, and just really breaking free of that, but then still being able to hold on to the idea that the stories in the Bible are teaching opportunities. They just can't be pulled out of context so much to control the population. You know what I mean? Like everything needs to be used for good. It needs to be used for what its original purpose was intended to be, and not misconstrued in all these different ways. So, I really struggled with guilt for a long time, and I really pressed down any kind of gifts or any kind of premonitions or dreams that would then come true. Like all of these things I just wouldn't really talk about. And even now, like with my parents, my mom, like when I told her that I could do this, she was like scared for me. Like, oh no, like my baby, like, I don't know if I like this. And I think it still like worries her, and I hate that, and I wish it didn't, but everyone's on a different point in their journey, and I realized that you can't make them be on the same page as you. And that actually Serena Rose Jarvis, who is also on this podcast, I've done a lot of work with her recently, and she's amazing. Everyone should get in connection with her too.
I talk to her a ton too. I love Serena. Hey, Serena.
But the major thing that she taught me is that it is not your responsibility, and it's really none of your business what other people think about you and what where other people are in their journey. Like if they don't believe you, if they think you're a fraud, if they think you're against the Catholic Church, like that's on them. And it has nothing to do with you. And you need to just keep doing you. Even if it's your mom, maybe it just means that that's a boundary that needs to be set, where we just don't always talk about that. And in time and in her own way, I'm sure she'll be proud of me, and it will be what it's meant to be.
Definitely. I feel like that was really important what you just shared, because I just could feel it as you were talking. I was like, oh, there's a lot of people that like really need to hear that right now, because I think one of the scariest things that occurs, one of the scariest things about like waking up and having that experience of coming into your gifts or just realizing that there's more going on here in general is that feeling of like, oh no, what if everyone else doesn't believe it too? It's almost that immediate fear, like I'm alone, or like, I know I went through that a ton with my partner in the beginning. I was like so terrified because he's like so science minded. And it's funny now, like it's so funny because obviously I'm doing so much with this publicly. And it's funny because we've like you said, the boundary, like there has been this boundary kind of created, it's different. It's not like there's a lot of fear. It's just kind of like there's no like serious belief there. But it's interesting the way that like relationships can develop and I think this is partly too, like what we're meant to learn here in this time is that like, just because we believe different things, that's the old paradigm said, if you have different beliefs, then one of you needs to die or go away or convert the other person. You know what I mean? Like something drastic has to happen here. We can't have different beliefs or else one of us is the enemy or one of us is wrong or whatever. And I think we're in this really powerful time of shifting that paradigm and learning how to love other people and have intimate relationships with other people that have different beliefs, like that's okay. We can all coexist. And I feel like that's what this movement right now on the planet is this realizing that like we can all believe what we want and live here and still love each other and respect each other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that, what you did, because I really have this like deep feeling that a lot of people needed to hear that about the guilt and the shame. And was there like one event or something that helped you move past that, or was it like how did you break free? Was it just over time, or did something happen that made you realize like you wanted to connect with your intuition more?
It was really, so when I first started listening to the podcast, I started trying to call into my life like more of this. Like I would feel so elated after listening to an episode and getting all these insights from Brandon that I would say to myself, like, oh my God, like, how can I get more of this knowledge? How can I connect with more like-minded people? And that's how, like, I met you and I met Ambi and I went on your guys' retreat and I started reading books and finding out that acquaintances that I had were totally on the same page as me and now they're closer friends. So, I think it was just a matter of subtly starting to call in these things. And anyone can do that. And everyone should take time to try. And it's not just about manifesting like, oh, I want a promotion or a new car, and I'm going to focus on that and make a vision board with the car I want. Sometimes it's more subtle than that. And the way that the energy is shifting, like things are manifesting quicker. And so you can just subtly say to yourself, maybe you have someone you admire. I want more positive role models in my life. And you might just be scrolling through Instagram and find someone. Like I recently found Gary Vee and I'm obsessed with him.
Me too. And wait, like literally no joke, can't stop for the past 2 weeks. All I can tell, Ambi's like, shut up about Gary Vee. I'm like, I can't. I can't. Literally just talked about him on today's podcast episode. Can't stop. That's so funny. Yeah.
But like things like that, just you'll come across and find. And that's the way that it worked for me, was just to keep calling those things in. And then it just sort of takes on a little synchronistic life of its own.
Definitely. Like it just did, basically. That's so funny. And that's such, great advice. And, which leads me to the next question, which is, what is one thing that you think would benefit every positive head to know or understand as they continue on their own journey?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that really has put my mind at ease about life and about our purpose here and taken away a ton of my anxiety is through my mediumship work. I have found that our energy continues and that there's so much evidential mediumship out there that it is hard to deny at this point that just nothing happens after we're gone. And that used to be a huge fear of mine, that either nothing would happen or I'm going to go to hell because I lied to a priest in second grade or whatever. And knowing that your energy continues and that maybe this is just one stop in the journey and that we've been here before and we'll come back again, that really puts my mind at ease and takes the pressure off, because this is all a journey and we're set out to live these life lessons that we chose in this lifetime to try and learn. So it's really more about enjoying the ride more. and not getting caught up in those day-to-day stressors. And I mean, it's easier said than done. I still do it all the time, but in the back of my mind, when I sit with my thoughts and I meditate, then it's easier to remember that it's really okay not to take things so seriously.
It's such great advice. Such great advice. I was just thinking something similar today, where, you know, it goes back to like, it's like, it almost seems to me like we have this program running, right? Of like so much to do, not enough time, like must get it done. This program of struggle, even when there's nothing to struggle over, like literally everything's great. It's like that program's running, and it's the process of like catching yourself and being like, wait, what am I struggling over? Is there anything to struggle over? Or could I just in this moment choose to be like, everything's great? Because literally it is like in those moments where nothing's even happening, but you're putting all that extra stress on yourself, like snapping out of it again, like waking up to it and realizing like, wait, this is just a frame of mind. And actually I could also choose to say like, I'm having a great day and like everything's coming in its own time. And like you're saying, just like relaxing a little bit and like riding the ride and not trying to like, you know, overachieve so much, or I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's like realizing we put this on ourselves, and actually when you let go and ride the ride, you get taken to all the right places, right? Mm-hmm. So love that. Thank you. By the way, I know your website isn't up yet, but in the future, when people listen to this, it will be up. So what is your website?
So it's going to be just caramiranda.com. Awesome. And you can also find me right now. My main mode of communication is going to be Instagram. And so it's at Cara Connects. So CaraConnects at Cara Connects.
Perfect.
And that's going to be the best way to shout out to me, message me, interact with me if you want, you know, a reading or just to say, hey, what's up? And then my website hopefully will be done in another month or two. And
can people
things?
Can people get readings from you now? Like, can they reach out to you on Instagram now?
Yeah, definitely. So to get a reading now, you would just DM me, and I do a lot of them via Skype or Zoom, and even like Facebook Messenger video. Every platform has video messaging now. So we can do it that way. And then for payment, I mean, it's like PayPal, Venmo, like everything's so technologically easy now. It's so nice to just have these platforms. So
yeah. Also, I'll say that at the retreat, you felt into something for me and gave me a message that I thought about it like last night before I went to bed. I still think about it because it stuck with me so much, and it pertains to like the next phase of my life. And I still want to like thank you for that message, because it really did like impact me. It's still is something that I think about. And yeah, it was like a very sweet message to get. So thank you for that as well.
You're welcome. I'm so glad. That makes my heart feel so happy.
Yeah.
I thought of another. Can I share another like thing that I want people to know?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, another thing is that sometimes, I found this is true for Ambi too, with someone in her life, but sometimes you'll be close with people closer to people after they pass than you were in life. And I've found this in my spiritual journey, that I had a friend named Vanessa who I used to work with at a restaurant in high school, and we were friends, and we didn't go to the same school, but we would hang out and we always worked together, and we just had like this crazy like connection. Like we were just soul sisters from the moment we met. And she tragically died in a car crash on Christmas night 4 years ago. And it was, I mean, just horrible and tragic. And what happened and what came of that is this year after I tapped into my abilities, I was able to connect with her. And from there, I reached out to her mom, who I hadn't met before, and we've become incredible friends. She's into exactly all this spiritual amazingness. She's like just this amazing, like, motherly figure to me now, who totally gets all of our like woo-woo fun stuff. And I'm now able to connect with Vanessa on a spiritual level, and I feel closer to her now than I did when we were in high school and when she was here and we were friends. And it's just so special to know that these connections and the connections you have with your loved ones can live on, and that they'll send you signs if you look for them, and they're there with you if you notice it.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that will bring a lot of comfort to people. And yeah, and I know who you're talking about because I actually got to meet her and at the retreat, right? And what a special woman. And yeah, and the connection, and it's so cool too to think about, you know, how now you're connected to her, and like how, you know, sometimes in death, it's so difficult. It's so difficult to lose somebody that you love, and somebody also that's like a very bright light. But it's also so amazing to realize afterwards, like what that creates in the physical, you know, like the connections and the love that brings together in the physical. You know, like you're saying, your connection with her mother, and now your connection with her in like a much deeper way. So I think that's comforting for everyone. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, I like to finish up with just asking if there's any sort of like fun or inspiring story of manifestation or synchronicity or anything cool or wild that happened to you that you'd like to share.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have a bigger story, but just a quick thing that happened like a half an hour ago today.
Yeah.
I was so excited about recording the podcast, and my grandmother is passed, and one of the signs that she always sends to me is roses. And I went to pick my son up at daycare, and the older kids had a graduation ceremony today, and there were a leftover little like single roses that they had given out to parents. And the daycare teacher handed me one, and she was like, "Oh, there's extra. Here you go.
Aww.
Like, here, have this last rose." And I was just like, "Oh my God, like it's from my grandma. Like, yeah. It's so cute." Like little things happen like that to me all the time. And like, especially for people who come to me for readings, like the day or the hours before I have a reading, like I will get signs from their loved ones, and like just know, like I'll see something and just know like that's something relevant, and I'll bring it up, and it'll be like something that's meaningful to them. So that's just like an everyday thing for me now.
Yeah.
But I have a relationship with my best friend, Sarah, who you also met.
Yeah.
And
we have the same birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
Does it?
So all throughout, we've known each other for about 10 years, and we're always on the same path. Like when she's going through a breakup, I'm going through a breakup. When she's getting a new job, I'm getting a new job. And, you know, like even as simple as like, oh, we're going on vacation, we're feeling sad, we don't want to hang out with anyone this week. Like we're always like twin flame on the same page. And when I first started listening to the podcast, we decided to go and see a medium together. And during our reading, it turned into, instead of like hearing from our loved ones, it morphed into this huge spiritual awakening where the medium was like, okay, I have like your guides coming through. Like you don't even have loved ones. They're like stepping aside because you're both light workers and you both have all these abilities. And here's like, and it just, and it that would happen to us. Like, yeah. And then we found out from her as well that in a past life, we were a mother and daughter. And of course, she was the mom, and I'm like the brat daughter she has to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how you find people on your journey. And like, there's always like synchronicities coming up with her and I. And it's just so fun.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't know that you guys are mother and daughter in a past life, but I can see that having spent time with you. Can you tell that Ambi and I are mother and daughter in a past life? No. That's what we were told. That's what we were told.
Who's the mom?
We can't figure that out. I don't know. I actually think that I thought we figured it out before, but no, actually, yeah. I
don't know. You know, I feel like you're the mom in the sense that like when you guys record together, Ambi's like this childlike wonder, like she's like la 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 la, and you're
I'm like, let's get down to business.
Tell them about this part. Don't forget this. Like, don't you want to tell? And she's like, oh yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking I was the mom too. Oh no, we haven't clarified that yet. But it's just so cool. Like, it's just so cool. And I think that's why we're fascinated with past lives too. You know what I mean? We're just fascinated with like when you feel that connection, like you're talking about with Sarah, like you just know, like you like know it's something so deep, and it's like you've known each other for forever. And also it's one of those things where like you can be away from each other for a long time or not a long time at all. No time has passed, nothing, no distance separates you or time separates you whatsoever. And it's cool, I think, to learn, if you believe in it, to learn like, you know, how you were connected in a past life, because it explains a lot about your relationship. And I don't know, I just think it's so cool that we're in this age of like, there's so much information and we can like learn this stuff. So anyway, Cara, thank you so much for being on the show. I love, you know, everything you shared. I think there's so many important nuggets in here for people listening. And I know this is really going to help people. So thank you. And if you want a reading from Cara, definitely check out her Instagram right now. And if you're listening to this later, then check out the website. I'm going to put both links in the show notes. So they will be there. And Cara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a beautiful day.
You too.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another HeAd Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.